Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We're back once again, and I got a few things I want to talk at you about. So grab your hamstrings, fist bump your coffee, and stretch your neighbor. Do it. Do it now. All right, first things first, I want to talk a little bit about this awkward exchange that we saw on Fox quote-unquote news. This occurred on the show Outnumbered. This was featuring Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House. He was being interviewed by Harris Faulkner, Melissa Francis, and Marie Harf when the awkward topic of George Soros came up. And he mentioned how Soros was funding a lot of these groups, these insidious groups like Antifa and all the people that we're seeing rioting in the streets. Common knowledge for many of us, not so much for Fox News. Check it out.
One of those businesses is a family, is a face, is a person who is now struggling and has no way to support their family. That's who I want to see in this hearing. I want America to see the faces of these people whose lives have been destroyed by this violence.
Yeah, it's so true. They represent everybody, right? Speaker Gingrich, I know you have a final thought for us.
Yeah, look, the number one problem in almost all these cities is George Soros elected left-wing, anti-police, pro-criminal district attorneys who refuse to keep people locked up. Just yesterday, they put somebody back on the street who's wanted for 2 different murders in New York City. You cannot solve this problem, and both Harris and Biden have talked very proudly about what they call progressive district attorneys. Progressive district attorneys are anti-police, pro-criminal, and overwhelmingly elected with George Soros' money, and they're a major cause of the violence we're seeing because they keep putting the violent criminals back on the street.
I'm not sure we need to bring George Soros into this.
I was going to say you get the last word, Speaker.
He paid for it. I mean, why can't we discuss the fact that millions of dollars he spent?
I agree with Melissa. George Soros doesn't need to be a part of this conversation.
Okay. So it's verboten.
All right, we're going to. Okay, we're going to move on. A historic day at the White House. We covered it from stem to stern. For major change.
Yikes. I detect a little smarminess right there. Did you see the smarm? I saw the smarm. Let's go to the smarm cam.
Smart cam technology. Smarm detected.
Nobody likes smarmy people! All right, we'll get to smarmy pants in just a second. But Harris Faulkner did have a response today. Check it out.
So we had a little incident on the show yesterday that was not smooth. And while I was leading that segment, we had interruptions, and I sat silently while all of that played out. Also not ideal. Our guest, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, who is beloved and needed to be allowed to speak with the openness and respect that the show is all about, was interrupted. Do we debate with fire here? Yes, but we must also give each other the space to express ourselves. As the only original member of the 6-year-old amazing daytime ride known as Outnumbered, I especially want to rock and roll with every voice and perspective at the table. We don't censor on this show, and that's why we're winning weekdays at noon.
All right, well, I'm no strategist, but maybe don't talk about all the winning after you just took a big fat L. Now, I don't want to pile on Harris Faulkner in particular. I do want to mention she seemed genuinely perturbed at the original moment, and she had to kind of compose herself as host of a show. And until you walk a mile in her shoes, it's really hard to judge. However, this response to all of that only seems to add on to the smug nature of all of this. But it was genuinely an awkward situation. Now, what I do want to talk about briefly here is little smugly Smuggington right here in the lower right corner. Yeah, that's Marie Harf. And this should come as no surprise. Marie Elizabeth make you want to barf Harf. She is a clown through and through. And I mean that literally. She was an analyst for the CIA, the Directorate of Intelligence, focusing on Middle Eastern issues. And she also was a big part of Obama's security strategy, as well as John Kerry. And she seems to be the person that goes on Fox to fact check everybody and sit there with a little smug face on. But there's a reason why this is so important, because not only is she censoring Newt Gingrich, not only are they ignoring something that actually is true, this is a flat out lie. And here is the graphic from Fox right here showing Soros's reach. We have talked about this a great deal. And when I say a great deal, I mean probably about 8 months of my life compiled into 3 videos called the Weatherman series. One particular example of this very thing, grabbing these DAs, is in San Francisco there with Chesa Boudin. Maybe it's Boudin. Maybe it's Bowden. Maybe it's Boudin. Maybe it's Poutine. Maybe it's Putin. Chesa Boudin, who is the real son of convicted terrorists, former Weather Underground members Kathy Boudin and David Gilbert, and is the adopted son of Weather Underground co-founders Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn. So I think you see why this is such a big deal. Another classic example of this is over there in Cook County with Kim Foxx, another Soros plant. And she's botched everything from R. Kelly to Jussie Smollett. Don't forget, Jussie Smollett is not over just yet. There is still the case of an iCloud account which has been transferred over to Gregory Wise, who is still investigating this regarding human trafficking. Fox is directly wrapped up with this, with her communications with Tina Chen and someone else. Please watch my Weatherman Part 2 series if you're not familiar with that. But once again, another example of something that we've already seen on record coming from George Soros, who has said himself that he wanted to overhaul the U.S. justice system. And this is how he does it. And when we see these people who are rioting and looting, all being supported by groups like Resist Fascism, which is another Bill Ayers Weather Underground outfit, we see that they get let off time and time again because of all these dirty DAs. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand how this works so much so that you can teach your friends what true white privilege really is. Gonna get pursued. Now for our next story, we're going to go a little old school. We're going to do a doggo story. That's right. If you follow my channel for a while, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you will. We're going to kick it a little old school, like OGs in the hood or whatever, with my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Speaking of money on my mind, we're talking about Mad Money. The host of Mad Money, Jim Cramer, over there on CNBC, former hedge fund manager and former research assistant for the Dersh. That's right, Alan Dershowitz. Well, Jim Cramer on the 14th lost his doggo. Very sad day today. We had to put Everest down after 14 great years. He was such a good boy, and he protected Lisa with a level of ferocity that was precious, while he loved just fooling around with me. Rip Ev, who would always answer for the name NVIDIA if you had a treat. Our pal. And then later we got this one here, sweet old doggo. Thanks for all the kind words about my pal. We'll be back in action today. Ev had been sick for a very long time with tumors and a non-functioning liver. It was his time. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Looks like a sweet little doggo. And then later we got this here, R.I.P. Everest, a very good boy. Now, without going into depth, we talked a great deal about different dog references over the years. If you're new to that, I will give you some references to work with. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you kind of know where we're going here. But I don't normally perk my ears up every time I hear the reference good boy, because the term good boy for dogs has been used for a very long time. However, sometimes I will perk my ears up when I hear the term a very good boy. And I'll show you why in just a little bit. But let's talk a bit about this first tweet. So here we have this old doggo named Everest. Interesting name, Everest. And actually, the name got changed later on to Everest NVIDIA. If you're familiar at all with Jim Cramer, he has been pumping the company NVIDIA, which makes GPUs, gaming processing cards, and things like that. Very big company. It's been around for a while, and Jim Cramer has long been an advocate for this company. So much so, he named his doggo NVIDIA. Check it out.
Your dog Everest NVIDIA had a good morning.
Yeah, Everest is just, look, Everest has been perky. Everest got knocked down by injury left and Citron. But you know what? Everest just recharged, got right back on the bed, took a little nap, and now Everest is a crouching tiger, although he is a dog. And that's why he is NVIDIA. He's bouncing right back, and I think that those who trifle with him have been bitten. He has bitten. We always have to put him in his crate when anyone comes to the door because he's a ferocious defender of Lisa and will bite anyone, and that is the definition of NVIDIA.
All right, this video is from 2017, and clearly Cramer was just having a crack, but he really did name the dog NVIDIA. It was just a little joke that was going on between him and his viewers for a while. I'm not a big fan of Jim Cramer, but I was kind of aware of this story. I was aware of his dog. You know whose dog I was never aware about? Mark Levin. Evidently, he's this big dog guy. I always watched him online. I never knew he was into dogs. That's right, yours truly, confessing it to you. I feel better now that I got it off my chest. Thanks for listening. We're talking about Everest right now. If you're curious as to why I'm even remotely interested in Jim Cramer's dog, I would like to refer you back to May 8, 2019, my original video on this subject entitled Very Good Boy. Sounds familiar, right? And from there is a series of videos, all linked in a thread, which I will link down below on YouTube. If you don't find it on YouTube, I will link it again on my Patreon, on my Parler, and on my Twitter. But this original video will give you a better idea as to why I even talk about the dogs at all. We've talked about this numerous times in numerous videos over hundreds upon hundreds of tweets. But a lot of this started with George Bush, James Comey, John McCain, Elizabeth Dances with Wolves Warren, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris. This spans a couple of years at this point and many more. So please watch this original video and you'll get the idea. But this has sparked a lot of different kinds of thinking as to what a very good boy is. There are some people that think this is a reference to some sort of mind control with other people. And as somebody who's been on this since the beginning, all I can tell you is that I'm not absolutely sure either way, other than the fact that there seems to be something very substantial here to this reference of not just good boy, but very good boy. So if you've not seen this video yet, please go check it out, and hopefully that will fill in a lot more for you. But for now, I want to take you back to a topic that I've come back to a few times, and I want to go into it a little bit more again, referencing the very good. Often it would appear that a lot of these messages that we're seeing exchanged online referencing very good seems to have something to do with security. Maybe something that has very good encryption, very much like this company here called Very Good Security. We've talked about this company before, and we're going to talk about them a little more in just a little bit. But for now, let's get back to Jim Cramer. Had a rough week, lost his dog of 14 years, Everest NVIDIA. Jim also had a little mishap in the media on TV with Nancy Pelosi. Check it out.
Between you and I think Secretary Mnuchin, I mean, what deal can we have, Crazy Nancy? I'm sorry, that was the president. I have such reverence for the office, I would never use that term. But it is hard,
you just did.
isn't it? Oh, come on.
But you just did.
You know what I mean.
Okay, so, yikes. Yikes indeed. Rough week for Jim. Loses his dog. Truly a sad story. I don't want to make light of that. But then goes on TV, makes a little faux pas with Nancy Pelosi. That's French, by the way, for... Shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. Not with Nancy Pelosi. She's got a lot of fans. I'm not one of them, but she does. She's got a lot of them. And you can imagine how they're probably treating Jim on Twitter right now. I don't think I have to paint that picture for you, do I? Well, hopefully he'll get some better news, and this looks like it could be some. A press release from NVIDIA's official website. So you know it's official, unlike all those rip-offs that you see at Venice Beach. NVIDIA and SoftBank Group Corp. SPG today announced a definitive agreement under which NVIDIA will acquire ARM Limited. They are a chip producer from SPG and the SoftBank Vision Fund. So the SoftBank Vision Fund is obviously part of the SoftBank Group. It is a separate fund that involves a couple other groups, but they're a Japanese group, otherwise known as Sofutu Banku Grupo. Sofutu Banku Grupo, in a transaction valued at $40 billion. The transaction is expected to be immediately accretive to NVIDIA's non-GAAP gross margin and non-GAAP earnings per share. The combination brings together NVIDIA's leading AI computing platform with ARM's vast ecosystem to create the premier computing company for the age of artificial intelligence, accelerating innovation while expanding into large, high-growth markets. Sofutu Banku Grupo will remain committed to ARM's long-term success through its ownership stake in NVIDIA, expected to be under 10%. AI is the most powerful technology force of our time and has launched a new wave of computing, said Jensen Huang, founder and CEO of NVIDIA. In the years ahead, trillions of computers running AI, listen to this again real closely, in the years ahead, trillions of computers running AI will create a new Internet of Things that is thousands of times larger than today's Internet of People. Our combination will create a company fabulously positioned for the age of AI. Okay, so I think we can really open up a big can of worms with this topic, right? The topic of AI itself. But I would just simply say this. If somebody told you back in 1985 of the Internet of Things, would you have viewed it the same way that you do now? Knowing what you know now, when someone like this is talking about something like this, it's clear that they mean business. Trillions of computers, a new Internet of Things. Well, the Internet of Things opened a lot of doors, didn't it? Whether for better or worse, it opened a lot of doors. And I imagine this is going to do very much the same. But let me just give you the details here. Additional transaction details under the terms of the transaction, which have been approved by the boards of directors of NVIDIA, SPG, and ARM. NVIDIA will pay to Sofutu Banku Grupo a total of $21.5 billion in NVIDIA common stock and $12 billion in cash, which includes $2 billion payable at signing. The number of NVIDIA shares to be issued at closing is 44.3 million, determined using the average closing price of NVIDIA common stock for the last 30 trading days. All right, so I'm no hedge fund analyst, but I would argue that this looks like a big deal, not just for Jim Cramer, but for NVIDIA shareholders. Like MarketWatch is reporting, this is the biggest ever deal related to semiconductors. And this is likely going to propel ARM into being one of the big power players, if not one of the biggest when it comes to chip design. What this also means is that NVIDIA is going to be getting into the smartphone business, and that's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. And this did indeed affect the market. As MarketWatch reports, the announcement made Sunday was met with investor excitement, driving NVIDIA's NVDA minus 2.20% share price up as much as 8% and adding more than $25 billion to its market value, about 2/3 of the equity needed to make the acquisition. I'd say that's doing pretty well. Okay, so I guess you win some, you lose some, and Jim Cramer went through a little bit of winning and losing all around the same 48 to 72. Let me show you a quick thread here from just a guy at COLO5D guy, Colo5D guy, Colo5D, Colo5D guy, September 13. Jim tweets a dog calm. His dog Everest died. Everest also was called NVIDIA, if you had a treat. Posted on Sunday, September 13th. Who calls their pets the names of tech companies? Perhaps we should buy stock. And then we see what I reported to you here. Announcement made that NVIDIA acquires a chipmaker ARM in a $40 billion deal. Announcement made on Monday, September 14. That is the same age as the dog NVIDIA. If only we knew, we could have made a mountain Everest of money, but that would be insider trading. And we aren't corrupt like certain TV hosts, are we? Not this guy, maybe just a guy, I don't know. Also September 14, Jim posts another picture of Everest NVIDIA, a very good boy who likes a treat. Time to sell. Jim says for a treat, buy NVIDIA stock on Sunday. He says to sell on Monday. Due to the acquisition, the stock went up overnight and peaked at $50 per share, higher than the night before. And here we can see the numbers themselves. Thank you to Just a Guy, who I believe is a viewer of the show. So it's an interesting theory, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I did think it was worth mentioning. I thought it was very curious that this all happened right around the 14th. The dog was 14 years old. Everest, NVIDIA, and of course, such bad news to lose your dog, and such a rough gig to make such a fail on live TV, only to have it all made up by one of the largest deals ever related to semiconductor chips. So is it possible that Jim Cramer just got really, really unlucky and then really, really lucky all at the same time? Yeah, I suppose it really is, but I did find it interesting. I thought the dog tweets were interesting. I thought the reference to the dog's age was very interesting, and I thought the very good boy reference was curious as well. Now, here's a couple more curious things about NVIDIA, apart from their creepy logo. GeForce RTX 30 series. They just released this, a new driver. They've had a series like this, but this is the newest one, the 3080. And this was a pretty big deal for a lot of people who are gamers or anybody who uses a lot of really graphics intensive kind of projects on their computer. But NVIDIA ended up running into a problem online when it came to releasing this driver. It looked like bots ended up buying tons of these RTX 3080 units and then were reselling them for upwards of $1,000. It became so much of a problem that now NVIDIA has announced that they are going to be manually reviewing the orders to avoid that from happening. And I would not be surprised if many of you were frustrated customers because this was a very popular product. Love them or hate them, they have a popular product for a reason, particularly amongst gamers. This is one of their projects known as GameWorks VR, and I wanted to show you one of their specific projects in relation to this GameWorks VR, and that's this right here. Everest VR, capture your climb to the top. Let's take a look. And here we are, I guess, in the Himalayas. Yeah, you can see right there, there's the mountains. Maybe you should turn your camera. Not really trying to have my VR world look as crappy as my normal one. Wave this guy hi. I don't know if he's a Sherpa. I don't know if this game comes with Sherpa. Maybe he's a Sherpa. Why are my hands off my body? My hands have left my body. Look, Ma, no hands. Oh, I guess we're going. We're going to have a go. How come I'm last? Why am I last? Help me, Sherpa. I don't want to look at all the ice falling. My goodness, just me and my hands. Help grab my hand, Sherpa. So is it possible that Jim Cramer might have known a little something about this massive deal about to go down with one of his favorite companies, one that he likes so much he named his beloved doggo after them? And does it have anything to do with his little humiliation bout on TV with Nancy Pelosi? Well, it's hard to say, but it most certainly is timely, and maybe it's just possible that Jim Cramer had a really bad week, and also a really good week. As always, you decide, but let's stop talking about ridiculous things like dogs and talk about more sensible things like mouse, mice, mouses, mices. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. You know Mickey Mouse. I used to love Mickey Mouse. Not so much anymore because, pedophilia. But, back in the day, I don't know if it's Mickey's fault. It's the fault of a lot of people over at Disney. I'm not so sure about Mickey, but now I'm kind of, starting to be a little bit suspicious about everybody. But right now, Mickey gets a pass. For now. Anyway, this was posted on Those Guys, post number 4730 on September 16. And as you can see, here is Mickey Mouse. This is a clock from Amazon, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But as you can see, our boy here is pointing to 10 minutes after 10. I guess you could argue that it's 9 minutes after 10. It's really actually between 9 and 10. So there are a lot of ideas as to what this might mean going around, and we're going to discuss a few of them. I just want to offer some up to you and let you decide, but I also want to point out that in between the 12 and the 2, you can see we have some highlighted minutes. That is 1 through 8. 1 through 8. So, iPod, Mystic Mac, if you will. What does it all mean? Well, I don't know, but I want to start off with this. This does remind me of a tweet from 2018. Actually, September 17th, 2018. I know. It was about just 2 years before. It's almost to the day. How about that? And it's this picture of a watch, a Trump watch. And look at the time right there. 10 minutes after 10. Although this one appears to be on the dot, 10 minutes after 10. The picture took me back to this December 2019 article from Hypebeast. Although I suggest that you don't believe the hype, a great philosopher one time told me, don't believe the hype. And I didn't. Amazon and Disney unveil Alexa-equipped Mickey Mouse Echo wall clock just in time for Christmas. Amazon continues to broaden its range of surveillance equipment. I meant to say Alexa-equipped smart home equipment with its Echo wall clock. Disney Mickey Mouse Edition. Differentiating this edition from a standard Echo wall clock, which is just your standard, everyday, average Joe, Big Brother contraption, is the inclusion of an all-over Mickey Mouse graphic, which is used to help tell the time. Wait a minute. So this graphic, it's not just partial, it's all over, and then it helps you tell the time like a clock. It's a heck of an upgrade. Amazon has enabled the Cartoon Classics arms to move around the clock to read the hours and the minutes like a clock, covering all the clock's analog functions. Okay, guys, we got the analog functions down, all right? His arms are going to move around. That'll tell the time. It's a clock. While maintaining the 60 LED markers that light up to alert users of the timers they have set. Oh, fantastic. Sign me up for 2. But wait, there's more. The Echo wall clock also tracks alarms, reminders, and notifications, as well as being able to respond to voice commands using its Alexa technology to help keep owners organized. This special Disney Mickey Mouse edition runs at $49.99. Just make it $50. Just make it $50. $20 more than the original Amazon offering. And if that's not $19.84 enough for you, Google, Amazon, and Apple and other tech companies have banded together to make like a Voltron of surveillance evil, to create connected home over IP is what I meant to say, an initiative to bring open smart home connectivity across all smart home products. The working group will be managed by the Zigbee Alliance and will utilize an open smart home connectivity standard based on Internet Protocol. The initiative will also allow for a more streamlined approach for developers to create products and reduce costs with a universal standard blueprint already in place for production. Zigbee Alliance board member companies also include IKEA, Samsung SmartThings, and Signify, formerly Philips Lighting. Although details are scarce, as they usually are with these big kind of deals, announcements will be made on major developments as they happen. Many speculate this is a major push from tech companies to help integrate smart home tech deeper into modern living. Wow, they must be professional speculators, because it seems kind of obvious to me. So here we have 3 of the largest data collectors in the world teaming up with a massive corporation that has long brought you children's films and has featured a lot of employees that should never be around children. And they've teamed up to bring you such an amazing product. It's going to blow your mind. It's a clock with all the analog features covered. You say it's clever because the hands will be like a clock hand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just a smart clock hanging on your wall. Keep in mind, they're introducing this with Mickey Mouse. They're getting this into your children's room. This thing is going to see you. It's going to hear you. It's going to record you. It's going to listen to you. It's going to speak to you. And it's all going to be connected, managed by this group right here, the Zigbee Alliance. Control your world your way. You look at that graphic on the right. Nobody looks like they're in control. The Zigbee Alliance is the standard bearer of the open Internet of Things. We were just talking about the Internet of Things. NVIDIA was talking about that. It's almost like they're talking about reinventing this whole Internet of Things. Well, here are the members that do trust them. That's a great way to open, isn't it? Silicon Labs, Lutron, Signify, Texas Instruments, and IKEA. And I want to give a quick look at these companies right here. These are their featured solutions, if you will. So you have Zigbee here on the left. Zigbee creates flexibility for developers and end users while delivering stellar interoperability. Created on IEEE's 802.15.4 using the 2.4 gigahertz band and a self-healing true mesh network. Sounds like Terminator 2. Remember Terminator 2? Zigbee has many applications and is widely implemented across the globe. But take a look over here on the right, Smart Energy. Full stack. Smart Energy is the world's leading standard for interoperable products that monitor, control, inform, and automate the delivery and use of energy and water. Translation, we decide how much you get. It helps create greener homes by giving consumers the information and automation needed to easily reduce their consumption. Okay, so basically what it does is it says, hey, energy piggy, you've had enough. And if you complain, then you're a bigot, energy pig. But let me take you a layer deeper here. How will it work? Amazon, Apple, Google, 3 of the largest data collectors in the world. Remember, Amazon, Bezos, Washington Post, cloud servers, and the Zigbee Alliance joined together to promote the formation of the working group. Okay, so we kind of talked about this. IKEA, Legrand, NXP Semiconductors, Resideo, Samsung SmartThings, Schneider Electric, Signify, formerly Philips Lighting, Silicon Labs, Somfy, and Wulian are also on board to join the working group and contribute to the project. Okay, well, I just dropped a bomb on you there, and I'm not sure if you saw it, so if you didn't, let's go back. Silicon Labs, Somfy, and Wulian. That's not Wulian, that's Wulian. Wulian is not just a smart home company, it is the largest smart home company in China. So the information being recorded by that clock is going to this group. Now I want to show you a few of their products. Here's the Dream Flower. How about that? Here's the doorbell. This is the doorbell. How would you like this to be your doorbell? Here you go. How about this? Does this look familiar to you? How about this one right here? Open the pod bay doors, Wulian. Open the pod bay doors, Wulian. Well, this is a massive group, the Wulian group. They're part of the Wulian group. Want to know how big they are? Have a look for yourself. Foxconn, Sony, HBC, Telefonica, ZTE, major groups. This is a massive conglomerate, all with access to whatever goes into that tiny little clock with the clever little hands. So keep in mind that like this clock, many of these contraptions now are not only gathering much of your data, but they are learning how to work with it as they go. This is artificial intelligence. So even the contraption that you own will get smarter as it goes, quote unquote smart, if you will. And much of this information is being shared with all these companies that have nothing to do with the clock, including foreign countries. So you may not own a Huawei product. That doesn't necessarily mean that Huawei doesn't have access to the information. Now, I just want to point out before we move on that the R&D manager, by the way, R&D, that's a fancy kind of music that the kids like. His name is Bruno Volcano. Bruno Volcano, R&D manager. And maybe you're like, IPOT, I think he's Italian. Maybe it's Bruno Volcano. Bruno Volcano. And I'm like, nope. Bruno Volcano. Now I want to get back to the watch. Let's say this watch is pointing to 9 minutes after 10, and that lends me to my next theory. But to explain that more, I want to take you back a few days to September 11th, an interview with Lindsey Graham on Fox with Sean Hannity.
Got a flashback of signs, yeah, take you back, yeah.
But stay tuned, Sean. You think you're mad about the phones being wiped? Stay tuned. We'll talk in about 10 or 12 days, and we'll see if there's something else you could get mad about. Just stay tuned.
Ooh, tough talk from Lindsey Graham. He's like, you want to go? You want to have a go at Lindsey? You want to have a go at Lindsey? Well, Lindsey's been an interesting character to follow through all of this. And if you'll note in that interview, very similar to a lot of other interviews we see with Lindsey Graham, he's trying to put on this tough, demanding facade. But whatever this is that's coming down the pike makes him nervous. You can see it by his shortened breath. You can see it by his entire demeanor. And he almost gets a little bit watery in the eyes. Whatever is coming has a lot to do with Lindsey Graham and likely makes him nervous. This is probably part of his reckoning process because even though he's bound to bring it, he doesn't really want to bring it, does he? And I think we all know that. Lindsey Graham does not want to bring it. Well, that was on September 10th. And he said, we're talking about 10 or 12 days, which is right about now. We got a couple more days, right? So let me take you to post 4671 on the 11th. And this is from Kevin Cork, or if you're French, Kevin Corquet. Remember when I said, wake me when there are indictments and or arrests? Well, a solid DOJ source just told me to set my alarm clock. I said, I'll believe it when I see it. And those guys mentioned heads up. Timestamp is CEST. That would be Central European Summertime. All right, well, fair enough. A couple days later, we saw in post 4686, equal justice under the law as written. Transparency, disclosure, and accountability. Justice is the only way forward. Future of our republic at stake. Watergate times 1,000. September 14th through 18th, which we already gone through now. 21 through 25, track and follow events. Did Kevin set his alarm? Well, he did. It looks like he set it back on the 11th. So are we counting down from the 11th or the 10th? Either way, we're pretty close, right? Now, in this post here, you see as written, disclosure, and justice all in brackets. And of course, we just lost a justice, right? Justice Ruth Darth Bader Ginsburg. And although I think a lot of you are probably of the belief that this might have happened a long time ago, we talked about this a number of times, her going in and out of living, if you will. Well, she managed to hang on, and that might have been a bad strategy for the left, forcing this old lady to stay in office. They probably would have done a lot better to have handled this problem a while back. But here we are, and it does look like we are going to be appointing somebody new before elections. Whether or not that will happen, I don't know, but that's the great debate right now, and I'm sure many of you are experiencing that online. The left is freaking out over this. Well, in regard to these brackets right here, we see this AS written. I couldn't help but think of, normally I would think of Adam Schiff with the AS, but I couldn't help but think of Antonin Scalia. And we all know that he had a mysterious end himself, right? And then, of course, we see justice in brackets. So are we actually talking about Justice Antonin Scalia? I don't really know, but that would leave the other two words that were left, written disclosure. So maybe it has something to do with all of that. But either way, the main point is that we need to be setting our alarm. And evidently, we're going by Kevin Corquet's watch, which is CEST.
Hey, you gotta check the mail. 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 Check the mail.
Big thanks to Get a Job Anon who emailed me this. This is part of their email, but they were picking up what I'm about to put down. They remind us of post 4730 from September 16th. That was the Mickey Mouse alarm clock. Notice the first 8 minutes are lit up in red. Well, we did note that. 10:09 or in military time would be 22:09 if you're going off the 24-hour clock. In Kevin Corquet's tweet, those guys reminded us that we were going off of CEST, European date format, day, month, and year. Well, the time wouldn't necessarily change. The time zone would change, but the time wouldn't change whether you're using the 24-hour clock or the 12-hour clock. But the day, the month, and the year would be swapped. American date format is month, day, and year. Meaning, could it be possible that Lindsey Graham's comment, which was on 9/10, talking about a 12 days later, would end up being 9/22? So is the date 9/22 going to be significant? Well, we're going to find out soon enough, and you know that on this channel I don't make predictions, especially with dates, but it is rather curious. So let's look at the military time 22:09 first. And that's this post right here, Truth to Power. Listen carefully. This is a YouTube link to C-SPAN. I'm not going to play it for you, but this is Inspector Horowitz back in 2018 on National Whistleblower Day. They're talking about protections for whistleblowers, which seems to be relevant considering that Julian Assange is back in the news. In this speech, he introduces Inspector General Robert Storch from the NSA, and they're talking about new protections that they're trying to provide for whistleblowers. So that's 22:09. But let's take that out of military time and just say it's 10:09. And I'm just going to cruise through this because it's kind of a long post and I don't want to break this all down. If you want to go to the original breakdown, go to my video, whatever video it would have been from April 4th, 2018. You should be able to find them all dated on my YouTube. It was not supposed to be revealed. POTUS is not under criminal investigation. Not yet. Traitor. Massive intel sweep. Manafort was a plant. Plantifort. Trace background. Open source. Who was arrested? Non-US. Trace background. Open source. Carter Page was a plant. Trace background. Open source. Why is Mueller going after inside plants? Flynn is safe. Define witness. Can a witness hold a position of power, influence while ongoing? Russia, Russia, Russia. Real or fake? Fake. Julian Assange. Seth Rich. MS-13, 187, 224 distance. What they're referring to here is a couple of MS-13 members that were found killed right after Seth Rich was killed. They were found about an hour away, but it was within a 24-hour period. So that's the reference there. The next reference is to MS-13. MS-13, M being the 13th letter of the alphabet. The wheel, and we're talking about this exchange, this ongoing wheel of exchanging information. But I also want to point out that President Trump has mentioned a lot in his rallies as of late, two things: a wall and a wheel. No investigation into WikiLeaks receipt of information. No pull down of NSA metadata. Trace C to WikiLeaks. No pull down of NSA metadata, period. Nothing transferred across the web. Direct to direct bypass dump. Yes, we know that this was a thumb drive. It was too fast to be online, right? No direct investigation into DNC computer software. No direct investigation into CrowdStrike. FBI, Special Counsel, DOJ, federal government simply trusts CrowdStrike's report on data breach. Yeah, they said Russia, 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 right? Hussein block, Hussein control, Hussein state secrets, White House national security articles 1 through 9, buried, a WAN attached, America for sale, cheating Obama, trust the plan, April showers. Okay, so this is all stuff that sounds like it's going to be rather relevant. Now, in this post, those guys actually added on troops to the border, clown black ops, private funds raised how? Troops at the border does what? Impact to who? Democrats are involved. MS-13 illegals roadblock, sex traffic roadblock, children roadblock, guns roadblock, drugs roadblock. Sorry, I swapped that. China, Russia pass-through intel pool roadblock. Name we don't say, McCain, Arizona roadblock. Jeff Flake, Arizona roadblocks. Big money terminate. The wall means more than you know. The wheel and the wall. The fight for the wall is for so much more. Yeah, this is a really big deal, and I think we're going to go even more into that in a future video, but I think you get the general idea. Now, just in case I'm wrong and that minute hand is actually pointing on the 10th minute, let's check out 10:10. Money, power, control. People are simply in the way. Slaves, sheep, pawns. Mass extermination events designed to decrease threat level of population. Well, we've seen that now, right? This was back in April of 2018. Gun control, wars, fake, top happy, back end deal, election rigging, control. Your voice does not matter. Pharma, classification D, water, air. Chemicals pushed for home use cleaning, cancer, baby on floor, hands and mouth, the start. And they're kind of referencing how all the the linoleum floors are cleaned with all these chemicals, and then that ends up getting into the baby's mouth by way of their hands from crawling on the floor. Vaccines, not all. Tobacco, opioids, ultimate win, death plus money, the Fed, Rothschild, conspiracy, UK, Germany, 5 days. Choice is yours. Revelations, enough is enough. So there's a few things for you to chew on for now. I want to leave you with a couple last things. I told you I was going to come back to something, and I'm a man of my word. We were talking about Amazon. We were talking about all the different partners that they work with. Of course, this Zigbee group that we were talking about. But Amazon Web Services obviously partners with numerous groups. Well, it was announced back in May that they were going to be partnering with another group that was going to be handling their data security and custodianship, one of the fastest growing fintech startups in 2020. And that's a little group known as Very Good Security. Yes, that's right, and I have a feeling we're going to talk more about this group in the future, but their CEO and founder is Mahmoud Abdelkader, and it's probably just a coincidence that their office happens to be located about a block away from the Bohemian Club. I sense a googly maps video in the near future. So is it possible that this has something to do with the competition between Amazon and Microsoft, seeing as their security does happen to be competition? Well, I don't really know, but the DoD upheld the $10 billion Microsoft Jedi contract, and Amazon was not too happy with that. We've talked a lot about that in past videos. Could this have something to do with it? Well, I'm not really sure, but we do know that VGS is working with Amazon. And now it looks like Oracle is going to be the group to acquire TikTok. So a lot of interesting things happening here. Now the left is blaming this on Larry Ellison's personal relationship with Donald Trump. He's held a fundraiser for him before. And to be honest with you, I think that is something that's fair to note. I also want to point out though that Larry Ellison was one of the guys that was urging Trump to check out a malaria drug to treat the coronavirus. Now, if you follow my channel, you know that I was on that from the get-go. Please check out my series entitled The Bite 1 and The Bite Part 2 if you want to know more about that. But I found it all very interesting and I wanted to stick it in your craw. So there you have it, boys and girls. Lastly, let me leave you with this image right here. This is the OG Mickey Mouse watch right here from way back in the Disney. You see, it's got the hands and they go around the clock, and that's how they tell the time. We got the airlock features all down. This is the original from the watchmaker Ingersoll, which is a great way for me to segue. It's not necessarily related. It's just a segue. Just recognize it as a segue to this video right here, 1900 or the Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood. This is an audio book that I did not too long ago in late last year. If you want to check that out, there might be some relevant information in there. Up to you to decide. From the same author as Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, which is a bit of a long story, but you can find that in audio form online as well. It's a very fun story and may even have pertinent information there. You decide. That's all I got for you today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who've been doing that. All my information is down below if you're watching me on YouTube, or you can find it pinned to my Twitter. That's all I got for you for now. This is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay consistent.